for all the tech geeks out there, you would know that WWDC happened only a few days ago. In case you don't know, if you know what my channel is, you watch my videos, I assume you know what WWDC is, but in case you don't, it's Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference. And basically what this is this is when all the top dogs at Apple, Steve Jobs, obviously, Phil Schiller, Craig Federighi, Johnny Ive, they all get together and discuss what's Apple, what's coming out, what they've been working on, and this usually includes 3 things. Well, I should say 2. This year included 3 things with something new. But they usually cover their Mac platform, and then they usually cover their mobile platform, which is now dubbed iOS. And so in this event, they discussed both those, and like I said, a third one. So I will say right up front that I do apologize. This video is like 3 or 4 days late. I had some webcam issues, which is why the camera I'm using now is much nicer. I didn't purchase this camera, sadly. I'm too broke for that, so I'm just going to be using this camera for these next couple videos, and maybe I'll start using that webcam again, but I am looking to invest in an actual camera. So I do apologize for the delay, but stuff happens. So I decided that with all these delays, instead of making one huge video, I'd make 3 separate videos discussing one topic each video. And these are going to be decently long videos, so you might want to grab popcorn, crack open a Mountain Dew, like I have a Pitch Black here. It's going to be very nice. And so yeah, these are probably going to be 20-minute videos each. There's going to be one on Lion, which is going to be this video, Mac OS X Lion. There's going to be one what they covered with iOS 5, and there's going to be a separate iCloud video. Now, when the keynote was on, I was watching it live on twit.tv, and I did manage to take lots of notes. This is like a 6 or 7 page layout of everything that's happened. It's a pretty thick packet. So if you see me looking down, this is going to be I'm just going to be looking at my notes so I don't skip over anything. And like I said, this is probably going to be a decently long video, so before I ramble anymore, thank you in advance for watching. So like I said, the first thing I'll be talking about is Mac OS X Lion, and honestly this is what I was most excited about. And I do have to say that I am kind of disappointed that they didn't take more time on this, because this is a brand new version of Mac OS X, lots of new features, 250 new features, and I was expecting them to talk a little bit more about it than they did. In my opinion, this was like the shortest part of the whole keynote, which did disappoint me, but we'll get more into why that is, or why they talked about more about iOS later. But for now, I want to start off by saying that in the keynote they said that the Mac is kicking ass, and it's true, because the PC market last year shrank 1%, and the Mac grew 28%. And those were exact words from Phil Schiller, that is an ass kicking. And it's true, so many people that they see the iPad now, how popular that is. They see iOS on the iPhone and everything, and they say, maybe I'll check out a Mac because I really love my iPhone. And so that has gotten a lot more people to join the Mac platform, just the Mac App Store and everything that, that's iOS-like, which is where they're going with Lion. So a lot of the new features in Lion are iOS inspired. And so this is what makes me and pretty much everyone think that people will really love Lion. And so they went over 10 main parts about Lion, like the 10 main new features. There are over 250 new features total, but they went over 10 in the keynote, so I'm going to go over those with you right now. So the first thing they went over were gestures. Now these are going to be great for me personally, because even though I have a desktop, I do have a Magic Trackpad. And so these are great for gestures. Gestures are very powerful. As you can see, I'll kind of move out of the way here. Take a 4-finger swipe, go down, there's all my windows. If you want to see what's something on my desktop and I'm running a full screen app, you do a 4-finger swipe up and clear your desktop. If you're on a web page here, it's a 2-finger scroll. You can see YouTube scrolling behind me. And so really this just makes everything so much easier. And Apple did say that, in the last keynote, I think it was in January, that they are, pretty much a mobile company now. And that means that most of the Macs they ship are MacBooks, and every MacBook has a trackpad built in. So there are more MacBooks and MacBook Pros and MacBook Airs out there than there are iMacs and Mac Pros. So there are many more laptops, which means there's many more trackpads, which means many more people will be able to take advantage of these gestures. And I absolutely agree with that. And gestures, like I just showed you, is nothing compared to what they have in Lion. So the main things they went over with gestures were that they're taking out the scroll bars. So if you notice, in any window, a Mac or a PC, you have a little scroll bar. On the side of the window, you have little arrows in the Mac. They're at the bottom of the screen. And then you have that whole scroll bar taking up about that much space on your whole monitor. Wouldn't it be nice, if you could just flip through your windows and to have that scroll bar only be there when you need it? So if you're not scrolling, if you're just reading, then that scroll bar isn't there anymore. It's simply just the page. But when you do scroll, you don't really need to go down and take your mouse and drag that anymore. You can just, flick through it with your 2 fingers on a trackpad, or even on the Magic Mouse, just 1 finger, scroll, or any scroll mouse. So why have the scroll bar taking up extra space that it really doesn't need to take up? So they eliminated that scroll bar with the gestures. So it's only there when you need it, so it goes away. That's very nice. Also in Safari, they showed some very cool gestures, such as, zooming just like on the iPhone. If you take it, the trackpad's here, if you take it, you pinch, it zooms just like on the iPhone. It doesn't zoom in the entire operating system, it just zooms in Safari, which is very cool. It's very fluid, just like you'd expect to see on the iPhone. You can also go forward and backwards with a 2-finger scroll. If you go like this way, it goes back in your history and the whole page slides. And then if you want to go back to where you were, so you can go back to the previous page and then back to where you were, the same animation. Like you see the page go off and you see the page come back on. It's a very cool little gesture, and it is very nice to look at. Like, it's appealing to the eye, but it also is very productive. The next one they really talked about was full screen apps, and all I can say is freaking finally. In macOS 10 there is no full screen button, and there's a way to sort of maximize the window, but you still have the dock at the bottom of the screen, and you still have the menu bar up there, so it's not really a full screen. You're not using every pixel in that application, which now they have eliminated that. You can now do that in the upper right of the window. You can just click the little 2 arrows, point in the opposite direction, and your window goes full screen. And so if you want to switch apps, this kind of goes back to the gestures. That opens up a whole new space when you full screen your window. So you could have this space, and if I do a 3-finger gesture on the trackpad, I can go back to my desktop. So then I could scroll back and have that application still full screen. So every time you open a full screen window, it creates a whole new space for you, which is an absolute productivity booster. It's amazing that it just works like that. In Windows, you can full screen apps with a hit of F11, or if you're watching a video, you can just double click it and it'll full screen for you. However, if you want to switch an application, you have to exit full view. OS 10, you don't have to do that. And if your application, such as iPhoto or Safari, is full screen, and say you're in Safari and you want to get to your bookmarks, or you want to open a file in another application, all you do is take your mouse, put it up to the top of the screen, and the menu bar slides down. Your bookmarks bar in Safari slides down, and so you have access just like you did before. But it's just like the scroll bars. It's only there when you need it to be. So when you're not mousing over it, it's not there, which means it isn't taking up space. So OS 10 now, with Line, is really big on using all of your screen real estate, especially since most of our MacBooks are 13-inch, especially the MacBook Airs, 11-inch, 13-inch. Those are pretty small monitors, so they like to use every single pixel that they can, and this will really be great for that. The next feature of Line is that they showed, this one's probably my favorite, which is mission control. And mission control is sort of like expose, like I showed you at the beginning of this video when I did the 4-finger swipe down, how it spreads all your windows out and you can see everything. Well, mission control takes that about 600 steps further. Instead of just, having, say you have 2 Safari windows open and iCal open, you're just looking at a web page, maybe you're scheduling something for a trip, and so you want iCal, to mark out your dates, whatever. But you want to switch applications really quick. So in the past, you would do a 4-finger swipe down. You'd have a Safari window, then iCal. But now it's going to be Safari windows, iCal. So now everything, it's much more organized. You have things grouped by application. So it's no longer taking up this much space on your screen. It's now taking up this much space. And if you want to, you can do another gesture on the trackpad. It kind of skips my mind right now. But then your windows, from there, they can jump out. And then you can see exactly what each window is. Then you can put it back. But not only that, that's not the best part of mission control. I think the best part of mission control is the integration with spaces. So at the top of the screen, you have every space you have. So you have one that's always there for dashboard, and then you have one that's always there for your desktop. And so then here's all your active windows. So if I want to create a new space, say I want these Safari windows in a whole new space, I want to have dashboard here, I want to have iCal on my desktop, and then I want a separate space just for my web browsing. So it's as easy as literally taking these, you click, you drag them up to the top right, and you just drop them there, and it creates a whole new space. And so you can create spaces on the fly very easily. And it all comes right back to the gestures, where if I want to go here, all it takes is 2 swipes with 3 fingers, and you get to that space. And the same thing if you want to close a space, you just hit the little X will appear up there, kind of like on an iPhone. You just hit that X, and the windows jump back to your main desktop space, and then that space goes away. So then you're just stuck with the 2 spaces. So mission control is just a very easy way to view every single thing that's running on your system, and it's very easy to organize it exactly as you'd like. Moving on to the Mac App Store, this one wasn't as big because right now we have the Mac App Store, but they just made sure to emphasize that the Mac App Store is built in now to every single new Mac that they ship. And they made a point to tell that there's various companies that ever since they've had their applications in the Mac App Store that they've doubled their revenue, quadrupled their revenue. And so I think there was one game, it was something Ninjas, I forget what they said in the keynote, I've never played it. But since a company has added a game to that to the Mac App Store, that company has seen like 1 million users in the first 20 days of being in the App Store. So the App Store, they just wanted to emphasize that how big of an impact that it's making on the Mac platform, how many more how many more people are developing for the Mac platform. And developers are key. The more developers you have, the more apps you have, and the more apps you have, the more useful your operating system is. And so these are very high quality apps brought to you by a lot of different developers. And so getting software now has never been easier, and Apple just really made sure to emphasize that. The next feature, I'm not sure if I'll even be using too much. It's kind of cool, but as far as using it every single day, I'm not quite sure. And this feature is Launchpad. Now Launchpad, just think of the iPad. You have all your different icons, even the iPod Touch or iPhone. Your home screen, you have all those icons, and you can flick between your pages of all these applications. That's exactly what it is, but it's for the Mac. So using your trackpad, you can swipe between all your pages of apps, and they just sort of appear on your desktop. So if I click Launchpad, or I do a 4-finger gesture in like that on the trackpad, like a 4-finger pinch, then every single application that's on my system, it doesn't even have to be in the applications folder. This isn't just an applications folder shortcut. This takes every single application. If I have an application in my documents folder, I have one in my desktop, and then I have all my others in my applications folder, it still finds the ones on the desktop and the documents folder. And so it puts those on your home screen, and you can reorder them however you'd like. You can create folders within Launchpad. So if I want to have a web folder, I can drag Safari, Firefox, iChat, and Twitter in there. And so those are all the apps I have that use the internet, for example. So it's kind of convenient, just but personally, I would just rather do a command space shortcut and type in Spotlight and just type SAF, and then I hit enter and you have Safari open. So I don't think this will save me too much time. It's sort of just kind of like eye candy. I don't really think I'll be using it too much, but it still is nice to know that if you're switching to a Mac from say an iPad or an iPhone, or I really shouldn't say switching, but if you got the idea to try out a Mac from the iPad, then that's sort of like a familiar face. The next feature is probably my second favorite, which is Resume. And what Resume does is that it takes, say, your window layout. Let's say you have Photoshop open. So you have the main document you're working on here. You have all your font inspector and all that other stuff there. And say you quit the application. You didn't mean to. You thought you had another application selected, but really it was Photoshop, and you hit quit. You just found a font that you wanted after you spent 20 minutes looking for one, going through that huge list of fonts that Photoshop has. You finally found one. You never got to save your document, whatever. So then I opened Photoshop back up, and everything just comes back up exactly the way it was. Exactly, to a T. If you had text highlighted, that text will still be highlighted. If that that document you're working on is still right where it was, your inspectors are still open, that font is still selected. So it just saves a lot of oops, pretty much. And it just makes opening applications a lot faster, and you can get back to work a lot faster. And it doesn't only work, say, if I just quit the application and reopen it. Say, for example, my Mac starts downloading a software update. Say it's a Safari update, and I have to restart my Mac. You hit restart, your computer shuts off, restarts. When it comes back, you don't even have to quit your applications. It just restarts your system, and when you're back up, everything was the way you had it. All that, it's the same exact applications are open in the same exact state. So it's like you've never rebooted. Everything, all your applications are still up. Like I said, that same text will still be selected. You'd still have that same font picked out and everything. So it works very well, and it does save you a lot of time and a lot of grief. So if you don't want to reboot, this might make you just say, alright, I'll just reboot now and get it out of the way, because you won't lose a step. The next one up is Autosave, which is also a very nice feature I would definitely be taking advantage of. It's Autosave. And Autosave, it does what it says. It autosaves. So if I'm working on a really long Word document for school, it's like a 4-page paper, I just typed it all out, and say, like I said, I quit an application accidentally. I thought I had Safari selected when I did the Command Q, but really it was Word, and I just quit. It will no longer prompt you to save, because as soon as you exit, it saves before it exits, and then it exits. So and it does this various times, and it's not just when you quit. Throughout throughout your working, I don't know if it's like every minute, every 5 minutes, or whether you get like type so many words. I really don't know how often this saves, but and you can still manually save too. Obviously, just do a Command S. You can never save too many times ever, but OS 10 Lion will constantly be saving your documents so that you really will never lose anything. I mean, if your power goes out, you might lose 5 minutes of work. But if you didn't save for the past hour and you only lose 5 minutes of work, that's still a huge amount of work saved. So autosave really just ensures you that you're really up to date, so you don't lose hours of work. So what happens if you're typing out some show notes or something, like if you do a podcast, I'm just throwing out stuff here, and you're not sure if you want these revisions or not? Well, that's no big deal, because you can always revert back to before it autosaved. So you can go back, 1 step or 2 steps or 3 steps. And so if it autosaves, then if you choose to revert back to a previous one, it just discards those newer autosaves. So it really is space efficient too, because it doesn't save that document again, create a copy of the document with revisions, and create a copy of that. It only saves the few revisions from each file. So it doesn't just save 1,000 Word documents. It just saves little lines of text, say, from a Word document that's changed between the two versions. So it's very space efficient, and so it won't take up too much space. The next feature is versions, and it goes kind of hand in hand with autosave. So what versions does, kind of like autosave, like I said, it stores all those different versions. Those versions, you can edit between them. So for example, if I like this one I'm currently working on, but I removed something that was in this one, my older revision, and I want just that thing back. I don't want the whole document back. I removed a lot of text since then, and I've added some more, and so I just want that picture in this one, and that's it. I don't want to have to go back to Google and type in whatever I'm looking for and search through 20 pages to get that image back. So what I can do is I could just open up a little tab, or it's the name of the document in the application. You select the drop down and you say browse previous versions. So then your current version appears on the left, and then all your different versions appear on the right. So this could be from 5 minutes ago, this could be from an hour ago, this one could be from a day ago, and you can see every single revision, every single time that line has automatically saved that document. And they're both live windows, so I could select text from this one and copy it to this one, and vice versa, and I can make that my latest version, and it'll auto-save it again. So versions is just a great way to really make sure that your document is just like the best it can be. The next one they unveiled was Airdrop, and it's sort of like a Dropbox, but on your own personal network. So say for example I have my Mac up here. By the way, this is a Hackintosh I built, but I just figured from now on I'm just going to call it my Mac. That's just a lot easier to say, and it works about the same as a Mac. It's retail install and everything. It runs OS 10 like pretty much perfectly. So just for the purpose of this video, and probably just from now on, I'm just going to refer to it as my Mac. So say I have my Mac and then a MacBook downstairs, it's my mom's MacBook, and I want to give her, say, a few pictures. All I do is, I could just put those in like a zip file or whatever, and so instead of having to plug my flash drive into mine, copy those, run downstairs, and then put my flash drive in her MacBook, and then copy those files off, instead I can just go to Finder, take that zip file, and drag it to Airdrop, and then onto my mom's picture, because it's on my same network. And so it takes like your user avatar and it puts it in the Finder window so that all the connected Macs on your network, they can see each other. And so it's sort of just like a Dropbox. If you have Dropbox installed on 2 machines, you could drop it here, and from this machine you can retrieve it. But this just goes right to here. It's peer-to-peer. You just take a file from one person's computer and put it on another, and it's all wirelessly. It works right through your network, so it should work very beautifully. There's notifications. Are you sure you want to send this? Send it on this computer. He's trying to send you a file. Do you want to receive it? Yes. And so just like that file is transferred across your network. Apparently there's no, it's just auto configuring. There's no setup. There's nothing you really have to learn. It all just works there for you. And your data is encrypted when it's being sent as well. So there's no creepers outside your house lurking in the shadows that are going to take your stuff. And the last feature of OS 10 Lion was that they talked about was mail. And all I can say is that this is a definite improvement from the mail application now. So instead of you having your inbox up here, then the message down here, they now take that and kind of flip it. So it's horizontal now instead of vertical. So you have it's very iPad inspired. If you've ever seen mail on the iPad, then this is very, very familiar to you. So you just have your inbox on the left. You can see the first line or two and who it's from. And then as soon as you click it over here, you can see the whole entire message. There's any attachments or embedded, videos, pictures, or you can see the whole text. And so everything, it's just there, it looks beautiful. And they also have a conversation view, which you can see every single thing. Like, I sent him this, then he sent me this, and I sent him this with this, and then he sent me this. But it's not just like, the classic, all text, color-coded text. They're actually like little individual page snippets, and so it looks very nice. And the best part of Lion is the price. It's going to be, drumroll please, $30. $30 for an entire new operating system with 250 features. A lot of them everyone is looking forward to. They're not just little features. So I want to take a second and compare this to Windows. From Windows, I'll compare XP with Tiger, Windows Vista with Leopard, and then Windows 7 with Snow Leopard. So let's say XP and Tiger. From XP to Windows Vista was what, like $150, $200 for the baseline version. From Tiger to Leopard was $130 for a full version. Just like there's only one version, not counting server. So once people used Vista, they didn't like it. It was a flop. People hated Vista. They stuck with XP. And so what did Microsoft do? Probably a year to like 2 years later, they released Windows 7, which is what Windows Vista should have been. You can't deny that. And so say Vista and then Leopard. So from Leopard to Snow Leopard was only $30, yet from Windows Vista to Windows 7 was like another $150, $200. So Microsoft is just absolutely greedy, and I guarantee Windows 8, which is, sort of, I guess, what Windows 7 could be. I will admit that Windows 7 is much better than Windows Vista, but I can guarantee that Microsoft is going to charge like at least $200 for Windows 8. If they don't, then maybe Apple finally got to them. But Apple, I could see where they were coming from, because Snow Leopard was sort of like a Leopard service pack, I guess you could say. There wasn't too many new features. There was just some hardware and software improvements, just to utilize more of your hardware. They dropped PowerPC support, and so it was only $30. It wasn't that big of an upgrade, and they made sure to mention that. And neither was Windows 7 from Windows Vista. It's just what Vista should have been. Windows 7, in my opinion, should have been free. It should have been a service pack for Vista. But they still had the nerve to charge you $200 for it. And here, Apple was impressing everyone again by charging $30, not just for an update, but for an entire new operating system. So this is just absolutely great. They will not be having DVDs. You can't just go to apple.com and buy a DVD. It's all going to be from the Mac App Store. So you do have to download a 4 GB image. But there are ways now where you can get that image burned to a DVD and you can do a clean install, so you don't have to upgrade. You can do a full clean install, just like I would like to do. And not only that, this is going to be available in a month, in July of this year. And so I am very excited for that. All these features plus many more. I just absolutely cannot wait for Lion. I'll be sure to do, an installation video if possible. And so I definitely cannot wait for Lion. So that's pretty much it for this video. Be sure you check out my next WWDC related video, which is going to be on iOS 5. Go ahead and check me out on Twitter. I'm at CPUKid. Also check out itechcity.org and follow iTechCity on Twitter at iTechCity. So I guess that's pretty much it. I know this is a long video. I have a lot of editing to do. So just let me know what you think about WWDC, macOS 10 Lion. Just let me know what you think right down there in the comments, and thanks for watching.